All right, Parashat Korach. This week, if you want to look at things, you don't really have to work so hard to associate what says in the parasha to very practical things and very actual things that we have and that's going on. The main part of this parasha, Parashat Korach, deals with issues of leadership. Of course, all leadership is not only just for leaders; it's also for how you're going to lead yourself. But that's beyond this. Everything is a leadership, and the parasha deals with two different types of leaders. And by really looking deep into the differences between the style of leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu to the leadership of Korach, we could learn, we could hope, we could pray that our leaders and our leaders here and the leaders of Am Yisrael will really follow the appropriate model for leadership, which is a leadership that gives, influences, and always looking for the best thing, especially for Am Yisrael. Already in the first word of the parasha, there is some kind of a clue to the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and his style of leadership, which is all about giving, to do good, to influence, to help, to the style of leadership of Korach, which is looking for only one thing, only for yourself. Sharing is a very good thing, by the way. So, and how do we know that? Because the Torah says, Vayikach Korach. The first thing we say Korach, say Vayikach, he already took. Korach is all about taking. And it says, basically the Torah is telling us that at the end, when it's all said and done, the whole thing that Korach was doing was all for himself. Was all for himself, to take the power, to take the kavod, to acquire authority for himself. And that's what I said to you before. At the beginning, all good political ideas, they're all about, we want to do the good thing, the right thing, and so on and so forth. At the end, it's all about what could I do to glue myself to my seat, to chain myself to the seat and never let go. All of them. It doesn't make a difference if it's a politician in America, in Israel, in England. It doesn't make a difference. This is all about yourself. And by the way, that's why we have such a crisis of leadership in the world today. We don't have leaders. We don't have leaders. What you think are leaders are very selfish people. So yes, I mean, if you look at this, the claims that Korach is making really seems like very general, moral-oriented claims. And of course he says, Kol ha'edah kulam kedoshim. Everybody is holy. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. The guy say everybody is holy. Oh, everybody. We're all important. But at the end of the day, it's very private. It's not about the whole congregation. It's just about you. And so therefore, and that you and this thing, you're shaking the table, Sam. You in this case was basically Korach and Korach himself. So of course we have to see if there is, what is the connection between after chasing after fame, glory, authority, and power, and believe me, there is, to actually distorting the Torah. That's like what we spoke before. To actually distorting the Torah. I just want to point something to you. There's not a big difference in conduct between Korach and Yerovam. It's all about the same thing. And those two people created a great destruction in Am Yisrael. So, and it's all about distorting the Torah, taking things from the Torah and distorting it. And many times, distorting the Torah comes on as a result, or as a backsetting for the person who is actually distorting it, his will to acquire authority. And most of the time, his authority that does not deserve it according to the din of Torah. And let's see exactly what it is. And usually it's being done by a claim against the legitimacy of the of certain fine tuning regarding mitzvot of the Torah and so on and so forth, by presenting it and saying, listen, thinking rationally, that does not make sense. Rationally, right? Or we are pursuing equality. It's not fair that we're going to discriminate. And that's exactly what Korach is doing. And that's exactly what is happening today all across the board. And by doing so, the ones who makes the claim is trying to prove to the people or to the crowd that listens to him that he is the one who is appropriate for greatness, even though the Torah claims the other way around. When you start telling the people what they want to hear, rather than what they want, what they need to be, or what they need to hear, you are betraying that concept that's called a leader. You're not a leader. You are a comedian, you are a salesman. A leader, you're not. A leader is the concept of political correctness doesn't have any grounds by a person who is a leader. And the problems that we have today, and one of the reasons, to my opinion, is that we don't have leaders today, is because they are more interested in telling the people what is politically correct for them. And I don't know who came up with this, but it's some loser in some university that come up with that stuff. And then you see, like, all of a sudden, concepts that are morally right, even in the eyes of Torah, not needless to say society, all of a sudden become obsolete and they're incorrect. But those people that tell you those things are not interested in real equality. They're interested in themselves, and they're using you as a jumping board to get them into power. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. So Korach, as we all know, he disagrees or really was against the whole concept of Moshe and Aaron being who they are. And of course the question is, okay, so he did this. But what was really the trigger that made Korach snap? I mean, if he wanted leadership, and if he was really concerned about Am Yisrael, when he wasn't a kid, why didn't he do so in Egypt? Why didn't become the leader that he was portraying to be in Egypt? Why did you care about the people then? Where were you when they were dancing with the Egel? Why did you take a step into the plate? How about the Meraglim? I didn't hear Korach say anything. Did you? I didn't hear. I don't know. Maybe in my Torah it doesn't appear. Maybe parentheses or something, footnotes. But I don't know. I've never seen Korach. He sees the moment and he's trying to seize opportunity to place himself in. By how? By putting wedges in something that we all know. Well, Moshe and Aaron are the leaders. Mm-hmm. So of course, what was the trigger? What made Korach snap? What made Korach snap? So what made Korach snap you can really find it in Sefer Bamidbar Rabbah, in Parashat Yudchet, Seif Bet. It says the following: Vayikach Korach al ma nechlak. What was the argument all about? The machloket. What was it all about? Al yedei Elitzafan ben Achi Aviv. Elitzafan, the son
His brother.
of his uncle, basically, his uncle. And Bnei Kahat. Now, and why is that? Because Elitzafan became Nasi on the Mishpacha. And Nasi Bet Av. He was the chieftain, became chieftain. So Korach says, wait, 1 second. Korach says, Arba'a achim ayu achei Abba. My father, there were 4 brothers, right? Uvnei Kehat, Amram, the Mishpachat HaKahati. Amram was for Kahat. Elitzafan ben Uziel, V'yitzar, V'chevron, V'uziel. So therefore, Amram was the Bechor. Fine. Amram is the Bechor. I don't have a problem with this. Moshe and Aaron came from Amram. Bechavod. You see, that's a technique they use all the time. You know, I'll give it to you. You're right. You should be number 1. Not a problem. You're Bechor. So he's using a concept that you can't disagree. You have to agree with it, and that draws you into a trap. Like, for example, somebody says, I'm against this and this and that, you know, this kind of a behavior. Somebody comes and says to you, I agree with you 100%, I see. But what would you have done? Would you say the same thing if that was your son? So, well, so how could you be, that's how they trap you. They always bring you into that in a personal matter, and then you can argue. And that's exactly what he did. So he says, okay, so Amram was the Bechor. Terrific, not a problem. So therefore, Aaron Beno got the Gdula, he became there, but Moshe the Malchut, Kahuna the Malchut. I'm okay with that. But he says the following: who needs to be really next kin in line? So he says, right? Isn't it the second one? I mean, if we go like this, the first one got it, I'm okay with it. So if we're going by your logic, that you got Moshe and Aaron, you got your position because your father Amram was, it's logical, was the Bechor, I agree with that. So who should be second? The second, right? And who is the second? Right? Uvnei Kahat, Amram v'Yitzar. He says, and I am the son of Yitzhar, and I should have been the Nasi on my mishpacha, on the part of my tribe. And you, Moshe and Aaron, made the son of Uziel, the youngest of all the brothers, you made him the chieftain. And it says that therefore I disagree with that, and because you did it in such a way, I challenge your authority, because your authority was absolutely inappropriate by the acts that you did. So therefore, you basically lost you lost your mandate. You're not an honest person. You're not an honest person. By the way, there's another story, a very famous story in the Tanakh, that we took the youngest one and not the first one.
Yosef, David.
No, Yosef, David. Yosef. Yosef was the youngest one. Why are you even Yosef? You're like David HaMelech.
Yosef was also a Bechor.
David HaMelech. He was the youngest. It was like nobody counted him. When Yosef brought Ephraim and Menashe, who is older? Menashe or Ephraim?
Menashe.
And who got the bracha first?
Ephraim.
But the difference between those guys is that they were Korach. Yosef was not Korach. So there's this, and you see, so basically what Korach is doing, hold on one second, I gotta sneeze. Thank you. Yeah. What Korach is doing, in a way, that's why he does it so severe. He challenges Moshe and Aaron. He challenges Moshe and Aaron, right? But basically, who told him to do so? Sam, the claim was against God. The claim was against God. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him that. So they say it like this, but it's really challenging what God had said. And that's how we start to distort the Torah. That's the problem. And if you look around, it's always like this. All these people, whether conservative, reform, all the secular, they start with something little. But that little is actually the tip of the iceberg. The whole thing is against God. I don't hold with that. And therefore I distort what the Torah says. And it's a pattern. But look at this pattern. You see, it's exactly what happens all the time. So according to Korach, he's supposed to get the next job online, right? He's the next one to get the next job, and he wasn't. So he was very insulted, and he complained against the injustice that was done to him. Another thing, and that's what all those people do, and a lot of the problems that we experience today also has to do with something that Korach felt entitled. Korach felt entitled. Entitlement is bad. You want something? You want something? Not a problem. If you want something, work for it, earn it. You're not entitled to, it's enough that you get what you get. You feel like now you're going to be entitled? These are the problems that we have as a society. The sense of entitlement. So and again, that was the trigger, but what was the technique in which Korach used to persuade his supporters that Moshe Rabbeinu was basically talking nonsense, right? Chas v'shalom to say that, but so the Bamidbar Rabbah tells us the following: Vayikach Korach talit, a famous story with the talit. But we'll see what he says. מה כתוב למעלה, מה העניין, ועשו להם ציצית, and they made ציצית, this thing, קפץ קורח ואמר למשה, קורח jump says, hey, wait, 1 second, Moshe, I had enough for you, just 1 second. טלית שכולה תכלת, פטורה מן הציצית, you telling me that in order to have the appropriate tzitzit, I need to have a blue string on it. But what happens if I have the talit that is old chelet, that is, the beggar? Do I need to have tzitzit on it? So he says, Amalo, yes. Moshe answered, yes. Chayavet betzitzit. He has to have tzitzis. And it says, so Korach said to him, so it's chayavet betzitzit. The fact that it's old chelet exempt itself. So what? Those 4 chutim would exempt it? So what are you talking about? Because you have to put 4 strings in each corner. So he says, a house that is full of books, or sfarim, or holy books, right? Does it need a mezuzah or does it need a mezuzah? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, yeah, it needs a mezuzah. So he'd answer him, Kol HaTorah kula, how many parashiyot?
52.
53.
Resh, Ayin, He parashiyot. All these parashiyot that we count. אינה פותרת מן המזוזה, they don't exempt the mezuzah. It says, אמר לו, חייב במזוזה. So it says, פרשה אחת שבמזוזה פותרת את כל הבית, and the whole ספרים that I have don't? You're talking nonsense, Moshe Rabbeinu. So he says, דברים אלו לא נצטוות עליהן. This is not what you commanded. So now all of a sudden, Korach became God's protector. Right? ומלבבך אתה בודן, you making them up. הוא דכתיב ויקח קורח. Because it says ויקח קורח. אין ויקח אלא לשון פליגה. פליגה means מחלוקת. He started to divide. שליבו לקחו, his heart made him because he felt entitled. So Korach asking Moshe Rabbeinu if a whole entire beggar is patur, and Moshe tells us yes, right? And the same thing about the house that is full of books. Why do I need a mezuzah to it? So what is happening here? In a way, Korach comes in a presentation of democracy, right? And he says, "Vayikhalu al Moshe ve'el Aaron." They all gathered around Moshe ve'Aaron. Vayomu aleim, and they said to them, "Rav lachem ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim uvetocham Hashem umadua titnasu al Am Yisrael." It's a democracy here. But you set here the laws. Who are you to set the laws? Let's take a vote. Let's take a vote. Imagine somebody would tell this to the founding fathers. Wait. Amendments, Constitution. Who are you? Let's take a vote what we want.
So the first Democrat was Jewish?
In theory, yes, but democracy is, okay, I'll take you this offline. So what is really the mistake of Korach? I mean, isn't it if he's not right about that he has to be the Nasi, and regarding the beged shekulot chelet, if you think about it, Korach is really right. Hold on a second, let's look at it. Korach is right. He's the Nasi, he's the second one. He should have been the Nasi. He is the second in line, should be the Nasi. If the chelet exempted the rest of the four corner garment, so if I have a holy tight chelet, so the chelet is doing that, right? The chelet is the one exempted tzitzit. So if a talit shekulat chelet, patur. If I have to have a tzitzit, the parasha of the mezuzah of Shema Yisrael, and I have a Sefer Torah in my house, do I need the mezuzah? Well, there's a Shema Yisrael there. So Korach is right. If Korach is right, so what exactly is here? So in a way, Moshe Rabbeinu is the fanatic. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who says things that are absolutely not logical. And Korach is right. And 1 second, but what does have to do with all seeking honor and power and so on and so forth? So, in order to say that I don't understand something, I don't understand. A person really needs to be anav, he needs to be humble. And that's what I tell you many times. If you don't understand, say, I don't understand. And you're entitled not to understand. But never say you understand when you don't understand. Because first of all, it's a lie. And second, you're never going to understand like this. And it shows that you're arrogant. So I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you explain to me? So to say I don't understand, you need to be a humble person. And to understand that, and to say it, and to acknowledge it, is to say that I'm not perfect, and I'm limited, and this is exactly the exact opposite from a person who seeks honor, kavod, authority, and so on and so forth. And you could see, because Moshe Rabbeinu, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him, he says, Nani lo rotzeh. But all those people, now you look at people that are in a leadership position that you come in contact throughout your life, and you could tell right away in the way they conduct themselves of their good leaders before they did anything. Just how if they're good leaders or bad leaders. If a person is always looking for kavod, always looking for honor, you know he's a bad leader without even seeing anything that he does. Just that. And that's something that you need to really internalize. Next time you cast a vote, don't look at slogans. Don't look for celebrities. Stay away from them. Look at somebody that's saying something of content. And willing to do things. So Moshe, and you see it, Moshe Rabbeinu leaves all the pleasures and all the dulce vita that he had in the Egyptian palace, while Korach just looking the other way around. He looking for authority. Hey, it's good to be the king. Sounds like Mel Brooks, but it's good to be the king. Again, Mr. Korach, you wanted leadership, it was open before Moshe came. Where were you? Where were you? Now that you see the benefits, now you want to be a president and a C? What is this? I never heard a word from you. And that concept is a very poor testimony to the level of leadership worldwide today. Maybe some exception here and there, but overall, the type of leaders we have, it's horrific. And that's why everybody goes whichever way they want, because there's no guiding authority to guide them to where they need to be. It's like in Rome. The barbarians were knocking down on Rome's gate, right? And what the Romans were doing? Okay, go out, get your swords and fight. Eating, having orgies, food, and what's the name? Gladiators fighting. They supplied the people, and the Roman leadership supplied the people with that, with those free entertainment, so they won't rebel and throw them out. I think you can do the same analogy today also. And we said Moshe ran away from leadership and he didn't want it. And only when he directly requested by Hashem, like Hashem put him to the corner, right, to take Am Yisrael from Mitzrayim, and he still said, you know what, can you find somebody else? I really don't want it. He said, Shlachna bayat tishlach. And when he was only forced, really, with his back to the wall, he says, okay, fine, I'll do it. And it's not because Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid of taking step into the ring and do the right thing. It's not because of he was lazy, chas v'shalom. I mean, you saw what he did to the Egyptian. He saw something wrong, he went to it. He didn't care of doing the right thing, but there was something different. Moshe Rabbeinu, wants to. I mean, from young age he's doing that. He really wants to. He says it's not for me. I'm not a leader. I don't want to do it. Why do I need this? It's dangerous. So he didn't want to do it. So Moshe leaves everything like this, and once he got it. And don't forget, Moshe Rabbeinu was a shepherd. There's something to be a shepherd. And that's, by the way, one of the ways they want to validate Jesus as a Jewish savior by making him a shepherd. One time he was a shepherd, one time he was a carpenter, or whatever it was. But all the forefathers of the nation were shepherds, the people who took care of others, of weak from themselves. They didn't put themselves first, they put everybody else first. And Moshe Rabbeinu was the same thing. Moshe Rabbeinu was busy in giving. And when Yitro came to him, he was falling off his feet dealing with his people. It's not because he was micromanaging the people. He says, I have to give to my people. So Yitro says to him, Habibi, you're going to collapse. You can't do that. Even you, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to collapse. You're going to take yourself some time off. Moshe wants to give. Where Korach says, give to me. Moshe gives, and Korach says, you give. He says, I'll give you, and he says, you'll give me. It's two different things. Two completely different things. And that's why Korach wants to do a coup and throw Moshe and Aaron over. And that's why he's gathering the people around against Moshe and Aaron. And if you look at this, really, the such fundamental difference, maybe the peak of how Moshe conducts himself as a leader comes when we did Parashat Be'alotcha, when two things. First of all, when we talked about Eldad and Medad, right? There's two prophets. Yeshua comes to him and says, listen, they're prophesying. So Moshe said to him, I wish everybody would be prophets. I don't need to be the only prophet. Everybody should be prophet. Let them. So Yeshua said to him, but they will take your importance as the main pipeline of. He said, that's okay. Let everybody become the pipeline. It's okay to share. It's like those people who they want they're going to make sure that the whole congregates are going to still stay on Me'aratzot because they don't want Chas v'Shalom somebody to challenge them with a question they can't answer. A person like this should not be a rabbi. Should step down. Teach the people. And the more you teach, the more Kadosh Baruch Hu will give you. So you don't have to worry about it. But Korach doesn't understand that. And the same thing when he tells to Kadosh Baruch Hu, please, erase me from your book. Most people want to be written in the books of history to create a legacy for their names. Look at Menachem Begin, or Arik Sharon, or Yitzhak Rabin, or all those people. They gave everything they had. They gave everything. They gave the land and they sold the people for their names. And they want to have peace. All of a sudden, everybody wants to have peace. They used to call them the Korbanot HaShalom, the peace sacrifice. People, you should do what's right for the people, even if you don't get elected. Even if the United States is barking at your neck, say, excuse me, that's my people. I got to do what's good for them. Now, how are you going to do a photo op with this president or with this prime minister? It's all about the pictures and so on and so forth. So you can walk in every government office and see a picture hanging in there. It's not about that. You are, not for nothing in English, we call these people public, what? Servant. You need to serve the people. But to those people, the concept of public servant means that the public is my servant. Not I'm serving them, they need to serve me. The concept of those people is that I'm the only smart one and everybody else is an idiot. And the only time you're smart is when you vote for me. I think everybody, there are geniuses out there in the world. People are smart. Deal with them on that level. Don't be afraid. And especially now, Am Yisrael is in a very, very a delicate time. There's a lot of switching from this one and switching to that one. This prime minister is gone. This one is over. It's like a tag. It's like in football. You have the defenses coming out, and then you have a quarterback coming out. It's like, what is this, a joke? It's a nation. It's the fate of millions of people, not only in Israel, throughout generation, and your decisions. You don't take it so lightly. This is not a joke. And in America also, there's going to be elections soon. We have to think very, very carefully. Don't go into parties. I'm not saying do not vote along party lines. Don't vote for parties. Vote for the right ideas, for people who are willing to roll the sleeves and work hard. Don't vote for a person that you know that all he wants to do is to get Air Force One and fly around the country and tell you that you have to drive a plug-in. I want them to make Air Force One a plug-in. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's willing to do the hard thing and talking to the people and speaking to the people like leaders used to speak. And that is on us. It is on us to act and to vote people like this. Now, it doesn't make a difference. You could become a Republican or you could become a conservative, and if you have a Democrat that is a leader, vote for him. The other way around. This is not a team. This is not the Yankees versus White Sox or Manchester United versus Liverpool. It's not that. It's about the world. It's about us. So besides being responsible and actually listening to that, you also have to pray. We have to really, really pray. And we need to understand that the way to stay as pure as you can is to first of all eliminate sur mera ve'asetov. Eliminate the external exposure that all its intent is to brainwash yourself and start learning Torah. Don't go to parks. Now you're on vacation. Don't go to parks and trips and other things that are going to make you lose control. I never took my kids to any amusement park ever. And I'm going to tell you this. I never went to any amusement park ever. Never. Sit down and learn as much as you can. Don't just learn, also meshamesh talmidei chachamim. Listen to what they talk. Listen to what they say. Look how they conduct themselves. Teach yourself and train yourself to see things through the eyes of the Torah. That's aseh tov. Sur merah is disconnect yourself from the shenanigans that happen in the world. Aseh tov is to learn to see, serve talmidei chachamim, yitzek mayim al yadeim, pour water on their hands so you could see how they conduct themselves. It's much more important than going to camp. It's much more important than making measly dollars, because that will change your outlook of life. That's going to make a difference, not about you, about your great grandkids, if they're going to stay Jewish or not. Train yourself to see things as a Torah, even if it doesn't make logical sense to you or cultural sense to you. Those things change. But the validity of the Torah and the truthfulness of the Torah forever stays. So let's pray and act like the way we expected. And if you have a person who likes to put wedges in Am Yisrael for his own thing, you need to be able to speak up, eradicate, and do not be afraid. Lo tagur b'fnei ish. Don't be afraid of anyone. Shabbat shalom.